What's good, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Lotus Asakor, the one never knows best, and today I want to talk to you guys about the Mortal Kombat 1 patch because we officially have patch notes, and we have a couple of days now, and I'm pretty late to the party, but it's better late than never. And I actually haven't looked through these yet because I still wanted to record a video for you guys, not only just to save my reaction for you guys' sake, but also to give, okay, that was a random refresh, but also to give my own thoughts and opinions on it as we go through it. So obviously there's some things that we knew right away before we even got the notes, and things that I figured out and saw for myself or just saw online, but most of these changes I'm not really aware of, I would say, when it comes to characters individually. So we're going to go through all that stuff together, and as you can see, there's also a ton of gameplay adjustments as well. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive into it because I'm already late as it is. But as you can see, the majority of the things listed here are fix an issue, fix a visual issue, fix several issues, but there are a couple of things that are worth taking note of. Some of those things you guys are already aware of, like the fact they added the Halloween finishers, and then added like a Halloween variant of like Johnny Cage's mansion and that stage and whatnot. Also, they made it so that the shrine can be activated right away, and you're now finally able to tag moves in the training mode, like when you're trying to learn a new character and stuff like that. You can see like the ping in matches online and whatnot. They added a Forever King mode to the King of the Hill, which is a very welcome change, especially for TOs online and everything like that. And just for the sake of casual play, just features like that just feel like they're supposed to be in the game at launch, and this is one of those things where I didn't quite understand why it's not in the game. Some other things that are in here listed in these gameplay changes that I didn't know about or hear about is the fact that Flawless Block now reduces super meter gained from blocked attacks as well as block damage. Something you're probably already aware of, but if you weren't, when you flawless block something, you no longer take chip damage, but the opponent would still build meter, which makes characters like Johnny Cage, Raiden, Baraka, and anyone using like Cyrex Cameo, like characters like plus frames or like chipping you out and stuff like that, make those strategies even stronger, because even if you block, not only are you taking chip damage, but they're still building meter. And then even if you flawless block it and you save yourself from taking the chip damage, they're still building meter to continue to initiate their game plans and get big damage when they do get that hit, whatever the case may be. But now, if you flawless block, your opponent's not going to build bar anymore, which I feel like is a pretty big deal. Another thing I saw in here as I was looking through everything is, here it is, remove the ability to perform a reversal without letting go of block. I didn't know that was a thing. That's kind of broke. I wish I had known that. I would have abused that because I did not know that was a thing. And also remove the window where ambush attacks would be done during the last three frames of block stun. Again, didn't know that was a thing either. Yeah, but I'm glad that they fixed that. I don't know if that was known. I'm sure some players did know about it. We're definitely using it to their advantage. But I didn't. But yeah, most of these things are not really worth going into with detail. A lot of it's just like bug fixes, visual issues, things of that nature. However, if you do want to read through every single individual change for yourself in the event that you haven't already, link to the patch notes will be in the description down below, and probably also as a pinned comment, barring me forgetting to do so, which if I do, I'm sure somebody in the comments will remind me. There's also some changes to practice mode, invasions, and the story mode, but we're not really too worried about that. What we want to talk about are the character specific adjustments. Let's go ahead and dive in. First character on the list is Ashura, and the only notable change here is that Soaring Demon can no longer be 2-in-1 canceled when up blocked, and then she's got a bug change. And from what I hear, a lot of characters have bug changes. Some characters only have bug changes, but there are definitely some nerfs and not a lot of buffs, and I'm seeing a lot of mixed opinions on this patch. It's pretty polarizing. It's a pretty polarizing patch, I would say, and I have my own opinions as well based on the things that I have seen, but I got to read it for myself to see how I feel about everything. But when it comes to Ashura, she's a character who was already very, very strong. And not maybe necessarily top 5, debatably top 5, right? But some of the characters above her kind of fell off. One of those characters being the character whose name is written right here. I've heard he got nerfed. We're gonna look at that in just a moment. But she's a character who, like, since some of the heads above her are kind of falling down, she might go ahead and move up both in character usage and popularity and whatnot, and just tier strength or tier placement, because it's probably top 5 now, I would imagine, or I would assume. And yeah, fix a visual issue that would cause the opponent to have an incorrect animation after being hit by Spirit Slice and not inputting any actions for a period of time. Now, Baraka, this is a big one. Stab has increased combo damage scaling when hit out of sync animation. Chop has increased combo damage scaling, and adjusted victim regions when stand blocking, unblocking, and then some bug changes or some bug fixes. From what I understand, Baraka historically is not a very strong character, like in Mortal Kombat games. He's never been like a super top tier character, and then he finally is, and he immediately gets cut down like right away. Not only did he get nerfed, but his best buddy Cyrex also got nerfed. Shout out Mustard. I know he's very sad about that. I'm sure he's still gonna play him, but we all saw this coming. We all saw Baraka Cyrex nerfs coming. So Baraka's doing not only a lot less damage, but also Cyrex Cameo got hit with a pretty big nerf where it takes the entire Cameo bar to use the horizontal chopper. So yeah, what I will say though is that I feel like just giving characters damage nerfs is kind of lazy, and I'm not really the biggest fan of. Especially in a game like this where the combos and the fast-paced nature of the game and how hard everything hits was very appealing to me and something that I really enjoyed. Now obviously people are gonna be like, oh well, you're a Raiden player, so of course you feel that way, but it's like, yeah, I don't really care about the changes Raiden got. Like, I've already played the game a little bit, so I can clearly see that he got some damage nerfs. He still hits really hard. Like, I'm not really concerned or worried about that at all. So this ain't got nothing to do with me or Raiden, right? And we're gonna see what other changes he got, if any, when we get there. But like, it's more so thinking about like, not only did I enjoy like the combos, because I just enjoy seeing cool combos and like high damage and whatnot, but this game was really fast paced, and for that reason, and part of that was because of the high combo damage, right? And for that reason, Kombat League and even the official, you know, Pro Tour and like events like ECT were first to 3. If you're nerfing some of these strategies in the game and nerfing characters combo damage, that's only going to serve to allow opponents to live longer and make matches take longer to complete. Now, I don't think it's going to slow down to like a snail's pace. It's not going to slow down to a crawl. The game is just going to inherently be slower because of that. Now, whether it still catches back up to the current pace it was or the previous pace it was, or gets even higher based on, you know, optimization and everything like that, whatever other strategies get implemented in the game, that's yet to be seen. But it makes me wonder whether or not like official tournaments are going to start running it first to 2 instead of first to 3, which I would personally be upset to see, because during ECT we saw a lot of players go down 2-1 and then bring it back 2 games straight and end up beating their opponents 3-2, and that was really hype and exciting to see. It made for some really interesting matches. And then obviously I guess it might not really affect online play that much. I don't expect them to change Kombat League to being first to 2, but I just know that me as a player, like, I really prefer first to 3 in every game for the most part, but particularly in this one as well, because it really feels like you can get robbed for 2 games and then it's over and done with. And that sucks. That really sucks as a player and as a competitor. So I hope that's not the case. But another thing is that like flawless blocking, as we saw, it's you negate chip damage and you negate meter build, which again is just slowing the game down. So people are only going to get better at flawless blocking as the game continues to to live. So I don't know how I feel about just giving a lot of characters more damage scaling, because from what I hear, that happened to a few characters like Garrus down here, but we'll see. General Shao looks like he only has bug fixes, no actual buffs or nerfs, which is interesting because General Shao, from what I understand, is considered one of the weaker characters in the game. Although despite saying that, he showed up a surprising amount at ECT in the bracket. We saw several Shao players and they demonstrated the potential that this character might have. So, with the fixes to the axe stuff and the Shujiko cameo, I wonder if we'll see even more of him, and I wonder how much further that character can get pushed. So yeah, I'll be looking forward to seeing what people cook up with him. Then we have Garrus, who has increased damage scaling on Shattered Sands. History Lesson has increased combo damage scaling, and when you interrupt History Lesson, or interrupting History Lesson now causes combo damage scaling to be applied, and then several bug fixes. I mean, basically the same thing I said with Baraka, and especially with a character like Garrus, who, like, yeah, he has some pretty good damage, but I didn't feel like it was too crazy. Like, I thought it was fine, but maybe my opinion is a minority. What about you guys? Did you guys feel like damage was too high in this game? Did you think it was going to get to a point where it was out of control? Are you welcoming the damage scaling nerfs, or are you opposed to it? Because I'm kind of opposed to it, but that's just me. Moving on, we have Havoc, whose Bloodbath has increased combo damage scaling, and we're seeing a trend here. Interrupting Scab Stab now causes combo damage scaling to be applied, and yeah, then some bug fixes. And Corpse Taunt hit reaction will no longer execute if hitting the opponent while they are under the effects of Time Stop. And then we have Johnny Cage, which is a very interesting one to note, not because he got a bunch of changes, but because he basically got no changes. As you can see here, Johnny Cage got 2 changes, which are both bug fixes: fix an issue with show off, and fix the repeating sound effect issue when Johnny Cage is selected as either character during fatality practice, which I've never experienced. I haven't done any fatality practice. However, Johnny Cage, in my experience, is either the first or second most popular, most commonly played character in the entire game, both online and offline. It's between him and Smoke for me. I run into a ton of Smoke players online, and Johnny Cage is right up there with him. Beyond that, Johnny Cage is also considered by most people, including myself, one of the absolute strongest characters in the game. He's been in contention for the #1 spot. It's between like him, Baraka, Raiden, Kenshi, and those were like the top 4 or 5, right? And then after that, you kind of get into the conversation with like Melina and Ashura, Shang Tsung. There's a couple other characters for that, right? But Johnny Cage is up there for sure. And we also saw oh wait, did I mention this? I should have mentioned this early in the video, but I guess it's better late than never, right? This patch was very, very clearly made before ECT. I don't remember if I mentioned this already or not, but I saw a lot of conversation about this. People like, oh, they saw ECT and they got that patch out right away, and etc. etc. This patch did not get developed right away and then released the day after ECT because they saw the tournament like, oh no, we got to fix this and that. And I think a very obvious and clear indicator of that, which for one, just common sense, but two, there were 4 Johnny Cages in top 8. We saw 4 different players pick Johnny Cage in top 8. We saw 2 players pick Raiden. Raiden got nerfed, Johnny Cage didn't. Now, I'm not here to say that Raiden didn't need to be nerfed or that Johnny Cage did need to be nerfed, because honestly, I didn't really feel like Johnny Cage was necessarily that big of a problem in terms of like, oh, I hate this character, he just feels so broken. Like, he's very, very, very strong, arguably the best character, but yeah, it just was what it was to me. Like, I just took it for what it was, and I kind of feel that way about all the characters, but I digress. This was very clearly in development and finished before ECT, but they obviously didn't want to throw a wrench into everything and like muck up their very first stop on their pro tour and ruin all the training and practicing and everything and the work that the players had put in. So they obviously developed this patch, let ECT rock, and then drop the patch after so that people can get accustomed to it, feel it out, explore it, get used to it, and then prepare for whatever the next big event is, right? But yeah, it's really interesting to see Johnny Cage get no change because he's extremely popular. He's one of the most played characters, one of the strongest characters, and like the other characters around him kind of fell, and he's still up there, which probably most likely makes him the undisputed best character in the game. Now Ashra's up there, and there's a couple other characters who I think got changes that might keep them up there or maybe move them ahead of him. But yeah, and he's a character that utilizes other cameos really well. Like obviously a lot of Johnny players were using Cyrax, but I feel like I see even more commonly Kung Lao paired with Johnny Cage, who in my opinion only got a slap on the wrist when it comes to how that cameo got nerfed. So I'm not surprised at all if Johnny Cage Kung Lao becomes the most commonly played team and also just the undisputed strongest team in the game. And whether that's healthy for the game or not, who knows, but I guess only time will tell. Then moving on, we have Kenshi. Enhanced spiritual alignment used while Shujinko mimic ancestors active no longer allows 2 ancestors to be active at the same time, and then a couple of bug fixes. So Kenshi, another character who doesn't really seem to have been toned down much at all, is considered by a lot of people the best character, and the only reason why we don't see more Kenshi, in my opinion, is because he's really hard to play. But that could honestly change just as the game goes on and as players put in more time and effort and just improve their execution and get more used to his style of gameplay. And Katana seems to have gotten a couple of buffs here, where Fancy Strike, which is a back 1, a hit reaction adjusted now has a positive hit advantage, so it's plus on hit. And then same thing goes for High Heal, that is now plus on hit as well. Kung Lao, hat toss or hit reaction adjusted now has a positive hit advantage when done up close. Downward slice, which is towards back punch, no longer has 10 more frames of block stun, a flawless block compared to regular block, and slightly increased the combo damage scaling after enhanced Shaolin Shimmy. I don't really have a whole lot to comment on with Kung Lao. Like, I made a video the other day that's like Kung Lao is scrubby and I suck, and I thought that was a very, very clueless. I thought that was very, very obviously, very clearly like a humorous, funny video, but people in the comments very clearly took that video way more seriously than I did while editing it and throwing in silly music and sound effects and everything. But I digress. Kung Lao is fine. Like, I just, whatever. Li Mei, bug fixes, and that's basically it. Bug fixes, and that's basically it. Melina, Ballerino Failure has increased combo damage scaling, which Melina was another one of those high damage characters, and then Enhanced Roll has increased combo damage scaling when hit out of sync animation, and those are their nerfs to Melina. Damage scaling. However, as I'm looking at these Natara changes, I'm not gonna lie, this low-key might be huge for her. Blood Sacrifice now does 5 damage, which is down from 50. This one change could single-handedly move Natara up the tier list, because one of the big issues with Natara is that obviously she has the lowest health in the game, and her Blood Sacrifice, which enhances some of her special moves, does 50 damage, which isn't like a ton, but is noteworthy, right? 50 damage can make or break you living or dying in any given scenario, whether that be chip or a combo. But with it only now doing 5 damage, this makes her significantly better, I would say, because obviously she has moves that like heal her and stuff like that, and her specials change, and her being able to access that for basically less resource and being able to like use it more frequently now because it takes less health. Like, I don't know how significant this is. The only notable Natara players I can think about off the top of my head, and really it's just one, is Deoxys or Dio. And I know like Sonic and a couple others have experimented with the character. And I know like Diaphone was playing Natara when he was playing Mortal Kombat. I don't know if he plans on competing or how seriously he's taking the game or how much he's been playing or whatever. But yeah, this one change could be big for her, because I think Natara obviously was considered one of the weaker characters, but Dio put on one hell of a show with her at ECC. I believe that he ended up getting 9th, so just shy of top 8, and he looked really, really strong. And I'd be very curious to see how much further he could have made it, or what he would have done if this change had happened before the tournament. Other than that, it's just bug fixes. But yeah, then we have Raiden. So Lightning Strike, his back punch has increased combo damage scaling when hit out of synced animation. Shocker has increased combo damage scaling. Electric Fly has increased combo damage scaling. Double take hit reaction has been adjusted. That's the jump from punch, front kick, back kick. That's fine. I honestly never use that string, and I probably should be using that string. He can slap. Hit reaction has been adjusted, and then Whirlwind has damage and hit reaction adjusted. So yeah, basically, most notably, he just gets damage scaling nerfs, which, I mean, he still hits really hard. He's still one of the highest damage characters in the game, it feels like. My BNB, like the most, like I know I had one BNB combo where I would do it like off 4-3-4, and it would do like 518 damage. Now it's like 460. Big deal. I mean, like that is a sizable chunk. Right? Like that's fine, but like 460 is still a lot of damage. So personally, as a Raiden player, I'm not really worried about that. And I didn't play Cyrax, so it's not like my entire game plan has been thwarted now, even though I should have done it just to piss people off with how much they were already, whatever. It's neither here nor there. Raiden's still gonna be strong. Raiden is still gonna be strong in my opinion, so I'm gonna still play him. Then we have Rain. His Water Dragon hit reaction has been adjusted. Rain God hit reaction has been adjusted. They fixed Overcast not allowing cameo ambushes or special cancels to be performed. Rain actually did get some slight nerfs because of some of these changes from what I saw, because I think I saw Sonic mentioning on Twitter that certain things that they were doing with Rain no longer work, like certain combos and certain setups basically just don't work anymore because of the Rain changes and the Cyrax changes. So yeah, they thought Raiden was a top 5 character. They thought Rain, they thought Rain was a top 5 character, a top tier character, and obviously that's the character that they ended up winning the entire event with. And I personally was not impressed with what I saw from Rain at that event. I was more so just impressed with Sonic as a player than I was with the character. And I'm just not smart enough or good enough at the game to understand. But like, you know, I seen the setups, I saw the mix and everything like that. But for the most part, I was just like, instead of seeing what Sonic was doing, like, oh wow, that was really cheap, this character's broke, I was going like, oh wow, Sonic is really good at the game, which is how you should always approach it and view things, right? Just because a player does something and the character is like really strong doesn't mean that the player's not good. Usually there are some exceptions, I suppose. But yeah, like I don't know. Sonic is one of the best players in the world in fighting games, and obviously the best Mortal Kombat player ever. So when I saw them playing around, I was like, yep, that's Sonic. But yeah, and then the rest of these are bug fixes. So it's mostly just bug fixes for everybody. Savage Siege from Reiko has a hit reaction adjusted, and now it has some more damage scaling, bug fixes. Reptile actually got a slight buff from what I heard. So tipping the scales, hit reaction has been adjusted, and Death Roll has increased combo damage scaling when hit out of synced animation, and enhanced visibility now causes Reptile to become harder to see, faster, and invisibility. Okay, so that they enhanced they buffed his EX invisibility. But I heard he does a little bit more damage, but maybe it's because the reaction of this is, maybe he gets a slightly better combo than he did before because of how this string probably works now. Some hit reaction adjustments for Scorpion from his Burning Fist and Crushing Kunai, and then fixed issue with Rope disappearing if hit by a freeze reaction during various attacks. Sindel, a character who I thought was decently strong, just not quite top tier, but not bad by any means. A character that I think is really cool and a lot of fun. Just bug fixes, nothing else, which I don't really feel like she needed anything in particular. Obviously they removed the infinite, right? The infinite got removed and everything like that, but she's fine. Shang Tsung, major complications, hit reaction has been adjusted, fistering wounds, hit reaction has been adjusted, injection has increased combo damage scaling, his skulls build less meter. Then we have like, which is basically a bug fix where invisibility moves used during Form Stealer will no longer sometimes prevent Shang Tsung from returning to his base form. And the classic brutality cannot be performed when morphed into an opponent, and then some other bug fixes. Smoke, his smoke bomb no longer ignores combo damage scaling on the last hit. Jump attacks after enhanced smoke port no longer have extra recovery. We saw a decent amount of smoke players at ECT, and Smoke is a character who I think still has a lot of untapped potential because of the caliber of players that are mostly playing him. Like, I feel like if Smoke gets picked up by a few more like top players and like labbed and experimented with, I think that character could be shown to be a lot stronger than what is currently thought to be. And I guess you could really say that about any character. It doesn't really sound like I'm saying a whole lot, right? But I just think he's a character that's underexplored. And granted, the game's like only a month old. Like, you could say every character's underexplored. Like, and I get that. So maybe I'm not really saying much of anything. But I just think that like the general opinion of like what Smoke is or is capable of is lower than what it should be, because I just think he's a character that's only being played for the most part by players who are like not that great. So yeah, I would like to see somebody better pick him up and really show what he's capable of, because I saw a lot more of what he was capable of than I thought, than what I knew from players at ECT. Then with Sub-Zero, Ice Clone will no longer disappear when teleported by his own cameo, and that's it, which is a shame because Sub-Zero is in that conversation for worst character in the game, and to get no damage buffs or any real buffs at all is unfortunate. So he'll probably continue to be arguably the worst character in the game for the foreseeable future until whenever the next patch is. Then we have Tanya with a few changes here, and it looks like some of these are bug fixes or whatever, but PED has slightly increased range, has 2 more active frames, recovers 2 frames faster on whiff, and has a different reaction when hitting an airborne opponent. That's a pretty big buff to that string. Heavenly Hand has an increased hitbox when using a combo and hit reaction change. Also, Tanya got some buffs, and Tanya was the character that I didn't think it was bad anyway. She's just very uncommon, but she's very, well, yeah, she's very uncommon. I think I really saw one Tanya player at ECT that I can remember, and I don't remember who it was that was playing her, but I know for sure I saw her once, and she made it a decent way into the bracket, and that wasn't top 8 or anything like that. But yeah, it does get the increased combo damage scaling when hit out of a synced animation on the brought low, the front kick, front punch, front kick string. But other than that, also the message from above is now vulnerable to up block. I guess it wasn't before, which was kind of broke, because anything that's an aerial and overhead not being vulnerable to up block is kind of messed up, I'm not gonna lie. It looks like all versions of Heavenly Hand are no longer throw immune during some recovery frames. Also, they fixed an issue, I guess, which was basically just a visual cue where it wasn't displaying punish when she was getting punished for these moves. And then that basically wraps it up for Tanya. And then we get on the Cyrax and the rest of the cameos, which, yeah, I mean, you guys already know Cyrax got nerfed. Did he deserve to be nerfed? Maybe, but there's a conversation going on right now about them limiting the creativity and the freedom and everything in this game, and like, you know, kind of putting a ceiling on like player expression and everything like that. And on one hand, I get it, right? Because you want as much creativity and freedom and player expression in the game as you can possibly have. However, I don't feel as though I was seeing any real creativity or player expression. The more the game went on, it was just pick a top tier plus Cyrax, and mostly just Raiden or Johnny and Cyrax or Kung Lao. Right? It felt like if we gave this game another month, it was just going to be a total of 5 different characters that were all playing Cyrax and Kung Lao, and that's it. Because the longer the game had gone on since its release, that's what we were seeing, right? We were seeing like four Johnnies every top 8, a couple of Raidens. Baraka surprisingly wasn't being as common at the high level, but like I see both sides of it, because while I do agree with the idea of it's like, oh, but this is limiting expression and creativity and that. It's like, well, motherfuckers weren't being creative or expressive anyway. They saw one winning strategy and they all copied it. You know what I'm saying? So, and I honestly feel as though the creativity and expression and everything like that in MK1 wasn't all that crazy anyway. Like, it's not like this game was like, I mean, granted, like I'm gonna compare it to DBFZ, right? Because that's my home turf. That's a game where, for better or worse, and regardless of what my current opinion of the game is, that's a game where you truly can get super creative and expressive and everything like that, right? Like, look at a character like Gohan or like Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta or whatever. Like, if you can imagine a combo, you can do that combo. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you can think of some shit, it's probably doable. Like, there's so much freedom and creativity when it comes to combos and synergy and stuff like that, especially now in that game. And even though that game has obviously had times where it's like, oh, everyone's just playing this team, everyone's just playing that team, because I'm aware of Fusions, Lab Coat, like Bardock, Kid Buu meta, like I've been around since the beginning. I lived through all that, so you don't have to tell me. Like, I get that, right? But I don't feel as though the creativity and expression in this game was rivaled anywhere near that. And people would argue that Dragon Ball isn't even the best example of that either, because you have Marvel and some other games as well. So it's just like, did the game really have that much and people just weren't tapping into it? Or did it just not have as much as people felt like it did? Because I don't think it had all that much, if I'm honest. But a lot of cameos I ain't touched yet, and a lot of characters I ain't touched yet, and there's a lot of characters and cameos that we really didn't get to see on display, because as much as people talking about creativity and expression, nobody was fucking doing that shit. Everyone was just picking Cyrax. So, like, for the sake of the health of the game, like, did he probably need to be toned down? Maybe. Was this too soon? Also probably true, because both of those things, both of those can be true, right? Cyrax needing to be nerfed and it being too soon to nerf him can both be true. Again, as somebody who lived through Dragon Ball FighterZ, we saw the pros and the cons of both extremes, of getting a patch every other month, like, and not letting the game breathe, and then also going an entire year without a patch, and then like being like, we could have used one like 6 months in. So where's the happy medium? 2 to 3 patches a year, maybe? That would be my opinion. I know JM Cross put out a poll where he actually asked players, how frequently should a game be patched? Should it be like once a year? Once every 2 years, like 2 to 3 times a year, whatever? And I'm of the belief that 2 to 3 times a year is probably like the happy medium. That's just my opinion. You can feel free to disagree, and if you disagree, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What I will say though is that obviously by nerfing cameos, you are only taking out more creativity and expression and freedom, and the ability for cameos to work well with other characters and things of that nature. Especially when you have one like Cyrax, so it's like, yeah, it's like you don't want everyone in the game playing the same exact assist, but also like, if it makes every character in the game viable, is it a necessary evil? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I don't really know. Maybe they could have just changed Cyrax in a different way that didn't completely make it so that now he's not unviable, but like severely nerfed, you know what I mean? Like maybe more of a slap on the wrist, like what they did with Kung Lao, because Kung Lao, in my opinion, is still very, very strong. Like his low hat recharges a little bit slower, but it's still pretty quick. You still use it a lot. I don't see Kung Lao falling off at all as a cameo personally. And then yeah, I'm not saying that they should have just like, oh, just don't nerf anything, just buff everybody, because that's part of how we got to where we are in DBFZ, where I feel like everyone's just ridiculous and just over the top and super, super strong. And like some people like that, I don't. But like, again, that's something where I've seen both sides and both extremes, where it's like, oh, severe nerfs versus severe buffs, or like buff no one or nerf no one. You know what I'm saying? Like I've seen it all with that game and with other games as well. But obviously, you know, DBFZ is the one that's easy to make the comparison to. And it's always about finding the happy medium. It's all about finding the middle ground. And you're never gonna make everybody happy. But I've seen a very polarizing opinion on this patch, and a lot of people are upset with like what feels like them adding more limitations in the game. And I could agree that you are just adding more limitations with the game. Now, hopefully people are actually forced to be more creative, since that's something that they care more about, since that's the topic of conversation. Since it's all about expression and creativity, we'll go hit training mode and be creative and expressive and figure some new shit out. You know what I mean? But yeah, that was a whole big side tangent, a whole big rant that I didn't think I was going to get into, but I felt like it was worth mentioning in this video. So moving on, we have the Darius cameo. No longer lingers around if the round ends while he's waiting to perform. Eat dirt. Bug fix. Frost cameo seems like a bug fix. Fix an issue that could cause ice carpet to move high and the opponent if they're close to the ground. Yeah. Increased recharge delay of raise the roof when used more than once in the same combo. Same thing goes for Jax. Same thing goes for Kano. We already talked about Buzzsaw obviously being slower. And this was also a big deal for Kung Lao actually. Spin no longer has incorrect hit reaction when done as a reversal. So spin doesn't give you like the combo that it used to before when it's done as a reversal. Like with the invincible one, doesn't give you like the pop-up whatever, which is a big deal, but I still feel like Kung Lao is going to be used a lot. Bug fixes for Motaro. Serena gets the increased recharge delay nerf. Scorpion gets the same nerf. Sector gets the same nerf. So it's like, again, they just nerf combos. That is the biggest takeaway from this patch, is that they nerfed combos, which I don't think really fixes anything. Honestly, I don't really think that fixes any of the actual issues with the game or the gameplay, but I don't really think most cameos needed to be nerfed outside of Cyrax. Same thing with Sonya, same thing with Striker, like increased delay, like increased recharge. Low grenade toss and high grenade toss will no longer sometimes cause the wrong reaction facing directional hit. Sure. Jujinko obviously had a bunch of bugs with it that got fixed. You need to get some buffs. The Sub-Zero copycat ice slide now does 110, so it's like quadrupled in damage, damn near. And then the rest of these are mostly just bug fixes. So yeah, lots of bug fixes and lots of nerfs. Not a lot of buffs, which is kind of disappointing. But it is also just the first patch, right? You would assume and hope things can only get better and only go up from here. But I can definitely understand why people feel the way they do negatively about this patch. And also, like, if you're just somebody who wasn't using Cyrax and you just hate Cyrax, like, hooray, Cyrax is dead. Like, as strong as Cyrax was, I didn't think it was like ruining the game necessarily, but I do feel like if that had gone on for another couple of months, yeah, it could have been detrimental to the health of the game, right? But I just like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I would love to have a conversation with some other MK players and like pick their brains about it. As a matter of fact, if you made it this far into the video, let me know, who should I try to reach out to try to talk about Mortal Kombat with? Because obviously NRS is not like my stomping ground. Like, I know some Tekken players, obviously I know the majority of Dragon Ball players. I know players in like other communities, but I'm not really locked in with a bunch of NRS players. Like, I know Beyond Toxin personally, and that's really about it in terms of like people that I know close like that. But I'm not afraid to reach out. So if you have some ideas, like I'd love to talk with like Ketchup and Mustard about it, for example. And in fact, they might be the first people I reach out to because I've never actually spoken to them before. And I think that'd be really cool. Granted, they live in the UK, so time zones are a thing, but I'd get it figured out. But that is the Mortal Kombat 1 patch notes. And yeah, man, I mean, the game is still going to be a lot of fun. I'm still playing it. Like, I don't think anything ruined the game, right? But I'm hoping for better in the future. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Hit this video with a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you haven't already so you can stay tuned for all the awesome content that I'm bringing you. With all that being said, that's pretty much all for today. Remember, nothing can happen until you swing the bat. Later.